In this video, we are going to watch Bernie Sanders grill the commissioner of the FDA on why our children are unhealthy. My name is Jordan Syatt. I've been a personal trainer and nutrition coach for almost 20 years. I'm not going to approach this from a political perspective. I'm going to approach this from a practical perspective, a science-based truth perspective. So take politics out of it, take your beliefs around the individuals out of it. Let's just focus on the science-based truth. Let's get into it.
Are you going to tell us with a straight face that you have come before this committee and the American people and say, hey, we have a major crisis. We are losing lives. We're spending huge amounts of money. People's limbs are being amputated. We have got to act. And have you pointed a finger at those people who are the cause of the problem? You know, there are 15 teaspoons of sugar in this product. How many parents in America know this when they give it to their kids? Say, here, have a Coke. Go out and play ball. Have you done your job in alerting the American people to the danger and rallying members of Congress to stand up to the special interests who are causing these problems?
First and foremost, Bernie Sanders is 100% right in that there's a major health crisis in the United States and arguably the world. Not only are our children more unhealthy than ever, but as a population as a whole, we are all more unhealthy than ever. And this also extends far beyond physical health. I think mental health is a massive fucking issue, but that's a separate topic for a different day. We have a major health crisis, so he's correct on that front. However, to me, this looks a little bit performative. When he holds up the bottle of Coke and he says, this has 15 teaspoons of sugar, that to me signals he probably just learned that purely for this specific moment. He's got the Coke ready to go. He learned this just so he could say that, knowing he's gonna be on camera, knowing this is probably gonna come out. Not to mention when he says, how many parents do you think know there are 15 teaspoons of sugar in this Coke before they give it to their kid and say, here, go play ball? It just seems like grandstanding to me more than anything else. I don't know a single person, regardless of their socioeconomic status, regardless of their educational history, regardless of anything, that thinks Coke is a health drink. I don't know anybody who would say this is a good drink to give to my child for their health. People aren't drinking it from a health perspective, and that brings in a host of other factors in regard to why our children might be unhealthy. It doesn't take away from his point that we have major health issues in this country which need to be addressed, but the way that he's going into this, I think, is misleading at best.
With all due respect, I've been working on this problem for all of my career. This is what I've done, and I think I have talked about this very specifically. I think we all wish that we had gotten to the goal sooner that you described. I'm not contesting that. But I do believe in an appropriate discourse with this committee, we need to carefully reflect on the issues in play right now that would allow this to happen. And I'm really heartened to hear the bipartisan support for this, because much of what we try to do, frankly, gets blocked along the way. And we'll talk about that.
Let's be honest here. The food and beverage industry spends hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on lobbying and on campaign contributions. You tell me the role that they are playing in destroying the health of America's children.
I'm not going to contest your comment about the amount of money spent on lobbying. I think it's probably accurate. I don't have figures on that. But a lot of the changes that those of us who are interested in better health would like to make are blocked at the level of legislation for reasons that
but I'm
you'd have to
still
tell
not
me.
hearing you.
I'm not a political expert. I'm not a pundit, and the truth is I have no interest in going into politics, which I think I'll discuss this later in the video. It's also not that surprising to think that people are blocking stuff. We see it all the time across the aisle, the right and the left. They're all always blocking each other's goals, which is oftentimes why we see standstills and why, from a citizen's perspective, like, what the fuck are the bureaucrats doing? They all go in there, they always make these big promises and nothing actually happens. I'm less focused on this, and I want to focus more on what can the individual do to improve the health of themselves and their family and their children.
What is the reason that our kids are unhealthy? What role do this industry play? Even now, you're getting out of office. Are you prepared to tell us that this committee, this Congress needs to take on the food and beverage industry whose greed is destroying the health of millions of people?
I don't like how he just framed that. I'm gonna start that over again just so we can all see that one more time.
What is the reason that our kids are unhealthy?
What is the reason that our kids are unhealthy? And then he says,
what role do this industry play?
What role does this play? What role does the industry, the FDA, play in the reason why our kids are unhealthy? In my mind, there's no question the FDA, these major organizations, these very high-powered food companies with lots of sugar, lots of fat, a lot of very highly processed foods, obviously play a role in it. But the way that Bernie Sanders is presenting it is making it seem as though all of the blame falls on them. All of the blame falls on the FDA. All of the blame falls on greed. When the truth is, that is just not even remotely close. So to answer Bernie's question and to answer the title of this video, why are our kids unhealthy? There's a multifactorial response, and the first place I'm going to go before we even get to food is exercise. And just as a quick story, just to illustrate, I'm sure you'll resonate with this. I go on a walk with my family every day. I have a wife, 2 daughters, I have a dog. Every day we go on a walk, sometimes 2 walks. And literally just within the last few days around our neighborhood, I was noticing kids on scooters. When I was a kid on a scooter, I actually had to pedal the scooter with my foot. I had to push the scooter, I had to go, and I would go for miles. I would do that with scootering, I would do it with rollerblades, I would do it with skateboards, I would do it with bikes. Now, all of the kids in this neighborhood, and by the way, this is not a very super wealthy neighborhood. This is a very middle-class neighborhood that we're in. They all have electric scooters. They're zooming at like 10, 15, maybe even 20 miles an hour, often not wearing helmets, by the way, which is a separate topic, but fucking bad, without any effort. They just stand on them and go. Now, the good news is at least these kids are outside. The alternative, in which I think probably the majority of our children are doing, is they're inside. Screens in their face, playing video games, watching TV, not moving whatsoever. Now, at least these kids on the scooters are outside, they're getting fresh air and sun, and yeah, they'll run a little bit here and there, but when we were kids and when our parents and grandparents were kids, they didn't have all this technology. They didn't have electric bikes. They didn't have electric scooters. They were walking to and from place to place. They didn't have Uber coming to be delivered to their home. Kids today move less than ever before in history. And while there's a multitude of reasons as to why our children are more unhealthy than ever, when it comes to physical health, I very firmly believe a lack of movement is the greatest threat that our kids and adults have right now. As for other reasons why they're unhealthy, and to bring food into the to the discussion, there's no question that having bottles of Coke, regular Coke around, is not going to help, and it's only going to hurt. For example, one thing I would love to see is, I don't think these options should be allowed in school. I don't think schools should be allowed to have regular Coke. I don't think schools should be allowed to have a number of different snacks that they have that are super high calorie, super high sugar, super high fat, super highly palatable, arguably, depending on who you're talking to and which definition you're using, addictive foods. I would much rather school systems have healthier choice options as opposed to these more readily available and potentially more harmful food options. But also, what do we do when it's at home? What do we do when it's just in your cupboard, combined with not moving, not exercising, having screens in your face all the time, the negative health, mental health, emotional health effects that come with always looking in a screen, not getting good sleep, all the stress that we have with being at home nowadays and not getting outside, not getting fresh air. You've also got access to all of these foods. And so now the question is, what do we do about it? We know the bureaucrats are arguing, just like we see here. The bureaucrats are fighting. Why are you doing this? They're all blaming one another. What do you do as the parent? Now this is where the individual responsibility has to come into play. And I'm not the person who says everything is individual responsibility. I think the community aspect is important as well. But if you fail to take individual responsibility, then you will fail. And you have to understand there is a responsibility on you in order to help you, your children, and also the other children, other families in your area. So if we're gonna talk about why our kids are unhealthy, yes, the lack of movement, yes, education, yes, the FDA, yes, all of this, but also now we're looking at the food, it's this ease of access. If you're putting it in your pantry, you're gonna be more likely to eat it. If you're putting it in your house, your kids are gonna be more likely to eat it. If you're not paying attention to what your children are eating, that's a big problem. I have a 2-year-old. Literally this morning, she woke up and said she wanted ice cream for breakfast. When we said no, she said she wanted a lollipop. When we said no, she was like, well, then I'm not gonna eat. And then soon after that, she was hungry enough, and then she ate eggs and avocado. That's what happened. And it took a lot of extra work. And by the way, I understand not every parent, most parents don't have the freedom that my wife and I have because we both work from home. We have the ability to be here with our daughter and make sure that happens. If you're putting them in daycare, if you have the funds to put them in daycare, if you're having a nanny, whatever situation you might have, it could be exponentially more difficult, which is again, a whole separate topic for a whole separate video, but the point being, if you have these foods in your home and you're allowing your kids to have them whenever they want, then you're going to have a big fucking problem with you, your family, and your children. So in regard to why are our kids unhealthy, lack of movement and ease of access to these foods are definitely the biggest one. In regard to combating this lack of movement, I have an entire YouTube channel that we recently started to help kids get more movement, get more exercise. We'll put the link to the channel in the description of this video. It's Workout for Kids, or Official Workout for Kids. I forget the name of it already just because it's a brand new channel. By the time this goes out, we'll have 4 or 5 workout videos. If you want your kids to get more movement and exercise in a fun way that's also effective, do this. And you know what would be even better? Do it with them. Don't just let your kids go do it and sit down. Get up. Do these workouts with your kids, have fun with them, make them a part of it. Ideally, when you go grocery shopping, if you can, take your kids with you. I know it's way more difficult, it takes way more time, but make them a part of it. When you get the groceries back home, let them help you put it away. Explain these things. And by the way, in these workout videos at the end of each one, we have a health and fitness nutrition tip to explain different things about health and fitness and nutrition to help them better understand what foods are gonna be better for them to build muscle and be healthier. Also, another reason why we have a major health issue with kids is education. That's why I do what I do. I want to not only make things more accessible, but I want to educate you and your children to help you make more knowledgeable decisions. For whatever it's worth, I said I would talk about politics near the end of the video. This is one of the major reasons I don't think I could ever go into politics, is because what we're watching right here, we're watching these politicians just going back and forth, who are later on in the video, Bernie Sanders says, you've been doing this for 10 years. Like, when is the change gonna happen? And he brings up a great point. When does change ever happen? It seems like administration to administration, they do one thing, they do something else, back and forth, and very little progress is ever made because it's just, they're always fighting. The reason I'm so passionate about what I do, and one of the reasons I love what I do, is because I feel like I can actually make a difference. I can hopefully empower you, hopefully empower your children for the rest of time, because these videos, they never die. They're always gonna be up. Hopefully, long after I'm gone, these videos will be available to empower you, to empower your children, and empower all future generations to take responsibility for themselves, to take control of what you can control. Because the truth is, none of us can control these bureaucrats. We just can't. We can do our best. Our votes, they absolutely matter, but the way that our political system works, and it's not just our system, it's every political system has major issues across the world, makes it very difficult for real change to happen. So in the meantime, focus on you, focus on what you can control, get your kids moving, participate in movement with them, try and fill your house with whole, minimally processed foods, show them that they can have their favorite treats in moderation, but not all the time and whenever they want. And you should be a walking, living, breathing example of health in the way that you want your children to be. I hope this video is helpful. If it was, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you don't already. Have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you next week.